What's up, everyone? Joe Fortin here. Welcome back to the channel. It's been a little while since I made a video. At some point, I'll be discussing, why it's taken so much time. I'll go into a little bit of it today in this video, but I'm going to talk a little bit just about, kind of diving down rabbit holes and doing research, and how to stay level, how to stay centered, how to stay sane, how to stop yourself from being overcome with fear, overcome with anxiety, being angry, all these types of things, right? Because these are generally people's initial reactions to this type of material when you look into a lot of the things that I've discussed on my channel. And the reason I'm making this video is because I ran into a friend that I hadn't spoken to in a while, who does a lot of this type of research, and he told me that recently he'd been diving down a lot of rabbit holes, and he'd kind of gotten himself into a place where he was consumed by it. He's driving himself crazy. He's in a state of fear. He is basically unable to operate himself, effectively in his own life, right? Just doing day-to-day stuff because he's so overcome with the emotions and the thoughts, the obsessive thoughts that he's feeling in regards to these topics. And so what I did yesterday was I shared my experience with him, and then I'm gonna share it on here. I was in this place, and I actually was in this place a lot, during the times that I was making a lot of my videos, which if you were able to view the older videos at this point, it would be pretty apparent to you. Sometimes you have to be out of something, out of an energy, out of a pattern before you could really see it for what it was, and this is something that I was doing to myself, right? I was burying my face in a screen, 8-10 hours a day, and just doing a ton of research, which was where a lot of my content came from, right? So it was useful, and I was making connections and seeing things that, were kind of my own unique point of view, putting things together in a way that I felt that nobody had done before. And I feel like there was a lot of value in the information that I was distributing. And in fact, I had a lot of people reach out and express sentiments along those lines, right? But it got to a place where there comes a point, right, when you've done that for long enough, you know how it works. You know what's going on. You may not know every detail. You're never going to know every detail, and that's part of what I'm going to talk about. Is letting go of needing to know exactly how everything operates. Right? You can't. And I don't care what you're looking into. I don't care what field you're looking into. I don't care what you're doing. The way that reality manifests in this place, right, is it never ends. Nothing ever ends. There's always more. There's always more nuances, just like with science, right? There's always another variable. There's always something that wasn't accounted for. There's always another way of looking at things, right? You're never going to get to the end of it. You're never going to know everything. So it's really, part of it's just about releasing that need to know everything, because that's inherently insane. It's an insane drive, right, to want to know everything, because you just can't, right? It's better to approach these things from a place of center, from a place of I will receive the information that I need as I need it while I'm on my journey, right? Walking in faith that you will have the information when you need it, right? Even if it doesn't seem that way at times. I'd gotten to a place where I was so overcome with these things. I was so obsessive in thinking about all of the things that I spoke about on my channel, that, wasn't able to operate in my daily life in a way that was productive. One thing I'll share that I shared with this guy yesterday: you need to look at your locus of control. And the first time that this sentiment was expressed to me, I actually reacted with anger. I had a friend say this to me probably about 5 years ago. He sat me down, old friend of mine. We sat down and had lunch, and I was telling him about all of these things, right? And he says, well, you need to look at your locus of control. You need to understand what you can and cannot control, right? Now, my attitude at the time was, well, if we don't take personal responsibility for these things, if everyone passes the buck and says, I can't be bothered with that, or somebody else will handle it, or that kind of thing, then we're never going to solve these problems, right? And so I would actually get angry at people who didn't want to spend time looking into all of these things, right? Because I saw them as being relevant to everyone. And I think that that's how a lot of people who are focused on some type of problem affecting humanity feel, right? It's like people need to be looking at this, right? And actually what it uncovered was a lot of control issues on my part, right? Needing other people to be doing a certain thing for me to be okay, right? So there's a lot of different elements of control, right, that have to be looked at for one to achieve a place of balance. But let's look at a systemic problem, like, for example, the fact that, government itself is essentially an immoral construct, right? And when you have government set up, right, even if the way that they originally designed was set up in a way to have checks and balances and those sorts of things, they inevitably become corrupted because of the type of people that rise to power and those types of things, right? And then the government ends up enslaving everyone instead of the government existing as an entity that's meant to serve the people, right? So something like that. Now, if you're sitting there on your phone every day, you're researching all this stuff and you're worried about it and you're like, we need to do something, but you're in this place where, you can't basically take care of yourself. How effective are you going to be in actually contributing to solving those problems? Well, the answer is not very effective. And the way in which one could become highly effective is to focus on themselves and what's in the here and now, what's in front of you, becoming stronger, becoming more resilient. Yes, educating yourself, but in a balanced way, right? Not driving yourself fucking crazy over this type of material, right? And sort of the place I had to get to. Now, for me, the way that I've actually learned to achieve balance is by introducing a large imbalance, right? So I've talked about this, the pendulum swing, the shadow, doing shadow work, my method of dealing with the shadows a little bit unorthodox, a little bit different than some people. I am someone who kind of advocates embodying the shadow to a degree for a little while so that you can actually understand it, right? Not to a degree that's going to cause you like big problems or a degree that's going to be harmful to other people, but enough of a degree where you actually understand that part of yourself, right? And in this case, what I advocated that this person doing what I did was I completely stopped. Same thing I did with social media. I completely turned it off. I completely stopped basically using my phone. I used it as a communication device, and the amount of time, like last year at this time, that I would spend on my phone was very, very, very small. I started engaging more with people in public, and I happen to live in a state where, we didn't, basically our governor didn't do the lockdown thing, which I'm very grateful for. So I was able to do that, right? And I just put my focus and attention on what I wanted to become, who I wanted to be, and spent my time doing things like jogging, doing things like meditating, breath work, right? Building my website, which I built, which, at this point it needs to be updated. It was my first attempt at a website. It's okay. It's not what I want. Building a new one, working on a company with my partner, Sydney, and that's called Sovereign Synergy. Self-empowerment for self-healing. So anyway, so what I did was I completely removed myself, right? I turned it off completely. And what that allowed me to do is it allowed me to get a baseline for like who I actually am without that external energy constantly affecting me. Now, once I had that baseline established, then I was able to slowly reintroduce content like that to my life, right? And what I would do is I would keep very close track of how far from my baseline am I straying when I view this type of content. And if I view something and I get sucked into it emotionally, how long does that affect me for? Is it affecting me negatively, right? Is the value in knowing the information worth more to me than my mental health and ability to function in this moment, right? And I would kind of weigh these things and look at it, right? And one of the things, another thing that's important is, I would recommend doing this with any type of TV show, any type of movie, anything like that. You learn to put yourself in the observer state, right, of your thoughts, of your emotions. This is basic mindfulness meditation, right? Don't allow yourself to get sucked into the movie or into the content or into your emotional reaction to the content, right? If you're starting to have one. Now, when you get to a certain level, you can look at this stuff and not feel the emotions, right? You're not going to have an emotional reaction to it because you've gotten to a place where you're sort of callous to it a little bit, because you've come to a place of acceptance. Like, yeah, this is how the world works. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I've known that for the last 15 years, and it's nothing new. We just got to deal with it. We've got to, this is the way it is. So, yeah, learning to get to a place where you can keep yourself informed and do so in a balanced way, not spend your entire life in a triggered emotional state, feeling fear, right? What you need to also understand is that you can manifest negative timelines for yourself by being in those negative emotional states all the time, right? So, if you understand how basically, energy works, law of attraction, and all these things people talk about, manifestation, how it works, don't want to be in a negative emotional state all the time. Right? It's not good, regardless of the mechanism behind which that functions, whether it's magic or whether it's just your subconscious, the psychological reason why things occur the way that they do. Being in a negative emotional state all the time isn't good for you and isn't going to get you what you want. In fact, the more that you put yourself in those types of emotional states, the more of that type of feedback that you're going to get from your reality, right? And it's going to just confirm it. And you're going to think like you're going to start to believe that like this is how reality works, when in fact, it's largely due to the fact that you're not actually mastering yourself, right? You're not actually like deciding and setting boundaries with what types of energy you are and are not going to allow into your life, right? So really, it has a lot to do with boundaries, right? It has to do a lot with internal boundaries, setting boundaries within yourself, right? What am I going to allow myself to do? And am I going to allow myself to get sucked into watching, conspiracy theory? I don't like using that term, but it's the one we have. Videos, for hours and hours and hours every day, and not being able to interact with other people, and not being able to take care of myself. Am I going to allow that, or am I going to put my foot down with myself and set some boundaries and say, if this is starting to affect me negatively, I have to change this, right? And believe me, it took me a long time. I'm a very stubborn person. It took me a long time, and a lot of people had to tell me, like, yo, you need to take a break, man. I was working with basically a holistic doctor that I've been working with for 3 years, Hal Kunstler, Laura, I'll just say that. And she told me, she was the one who basically kept telling me, like, you need to take a break, man. Like, you've been researching this stuff for years. You've been putting out content. You've been dealing with the repercussions from putting out that content. And it's time to give yourself a break. And that was the best thing I did. It was the best thing I did. When I met Sydney, I was in the best place in my life. I was the healthiest. I was the strongest. I had basically, I wasn't really having addiction issues. I still was, I quit smoking 3 days after I met her. And I still don't smoke. I do vape now, live in the vape life. But, it was largely due to the fact that I decided that I was going to focus on the things that I wanted and focus on becoming the best version of myself. And through doing that, Now I'm actually able to have a greater effect on those larger issues than I was when I was freaking out about it. Because now, having done all this work and come to this place of relative balance compared to where I was, people are going to be a lot more likely to actually listen to what I have to say, for one. Two is that I've made it this far. I've made it through this many challenges. I've made it through, almost dying. I've made it through threats. I've made it through all these different things, right? And I'm still fucking here. So, don't let your fear get the best of you. If you're someone who's able to see these things, there's a reason for it. And if you're able to put things together in a way that other people can't, right, there's a reason for that too. You're here for a purpose, right? But sometimes you need to take a step back from things and reevaluate before you move forward. There's a quote from the Warrior of the Light that I'll leave you with. It's Paulo Coelho. Paulo Coelho. And I don't have the whole quote in front of me, but I'll recount what I remember. And it is, the Warrior of the Light always returns to the fray, but he never does so out of stubbornness, but because he has noticed a change in the weather. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to be making more content and talking a little bit about my absence, but I wanted to just dive into something that seemed a little bit easier to talk about today and get my feet wet. So I'll see you all soon. For those of you who have been waiting, thanks for waiting. Thanks for being patient with me, and thank you for watching, and thank you to all of you who have supported me over the years. I really appreciate you.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button down below and click the icon to your left to subscribe. New content every week about spirituality and addiction from myself, Joe Fortin. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.